previous video we learned what were the controllers, and in this video we're going to learn what are models. Okay, so models basically, guys, it represents the data structure. Okay, and it will contain functions that allow you to perform the CRUD functionality, which is create, insert, create, read, update, delete. Yeah, those functionality in your database. Now, what is ORM? ORM is basically object relational mapping, and it's a programming technique for converting data between incompatible type system using object-oriented programming languages. Okay, now Eloquent ORM, what is that? It's actually an Laravel's active record implementation, which simplifies much of your interactions of your system with the database. So guys, you know what is MySQL. It provides you with a set of functions that allows you to perform the CRUD functionality like insert, update, create, delete, all of those things. Similarly, you have Eloquent. Eloquent will make your job and life a lot easier because it will also provide you a certain set of functions which will allow you to interact with the database and perform all the CRUD functionality in a more simpler fashion. Laravel is one of the best PHP languages framework. Why? Because it provides you a certain set of functions which are very simple, and it's going to save time for you because you don't have to write. For example, if you have to write like 10 lines of code, then you can just call one function and probably do the job for you in Laravel. Great. So you understand what all Eloquent ORM is. Now, where do these models reside? So we've already discussed that in our previous videos in the directory structure video, that the models reside in the app directory. So by default, you have the user.php model that Laravel provides to you. That actually contains all the functionality for the users table. So basically, it provides you all the functions to perform your CRUD functionality for on the users table. Okay. Unlike controllers, the name of the model should be singular. So if you notice, when we created the controller was actually plural. So even if you look at the default controller, which is controller.php, this is a default one, but when we did create the posts controller, there was s at the end. But when you're creating model, it has to be singular. So if you were using a model for posts controller, then you will create a post.php model. Okay, so controllers have controller term at the end, but the models don't. Model will just have the singular name for that. Okay, great. So how do we create that? Obviously, you can create it by creating a new file over here and name it as post .php, and that would actually be the model. But then you'll have to write all the namespace and all that. So the best way is to use the Laravel built-in artisan CLI, and we'll just say, go into your project and just say PHP artisan make model, and then the name of the model. So I want to go ahead and do that as post. That's the name of the model. Remember, when we create the controller, we did make controller, and since we are creating model, we'll say make model and the name of the model. So this will create post.php. Let's do that and see that model created successfully. If you come back here, you can see that this is already created. It's using the Eloquent model, so providing you all the functionality, all the methods that you can use to interact with the database in your controllers. Great. Okay, so the next thing is that what if you want to create a migration file? So we have discussed in previous videos, so migration files are basically residing in database migration directory. You can see there are two default migration files that comes into the database, and the job of these files is basically to create the users table with the given columns. So you can see WordPress provides us with a default create user table migration file. Here you are creating a name column, ID column, email, password, remember token, timestamp is basically for created at and updated at columns. Okay, and then you have the create password, reset table, all of that stuff. Okay, so these are the two default ones. If you want to go ahead and create a migration file, you can just do PHP artisan migration and then the name of the migration, but instead of doing that, you can do both of these things together. So what you can do is basically, let me just delete this one, delete this model. If you want to create a migration file and a model together, all you have to do is say PHP artisan make model post and just pass an m flag, and a job of the m flag will be to create a migration file for that. And if this is post, this is relating to posts in the user table. The name of the user table will be posts for the post model, and this would m flag will create a migration file which will be called create underscore posts underscore table. So let's try that. You can see model is created, migration is created, and the name of the migration is create posts table. So you come back over here, you can see post.php. This is the model already created, and then you have the create post table is also created. We also need to add the different columns. We can add over here, so we can say table type is string, and we can just name it as let's say title, and then we can also create one more, and let's name it as description. I'll just put DSC as short form. Okay, but this alone is not going to do this job. By just creating the migration file, by just creating the model is not really going to do anything in the database. Okay, the very first thing we need to do is basically provide setting of the database, and in order for us to link our project with the database, we need to provide the settings. So where do we find the settings? We find it in .env file, which is this. Over here, what we'll do is we'll first create a table. So sorry, we'll first go ahead and create a database. So we'll add database, we'll say my DB, let's say this is the name of the database. I'll go ahead and add it. Okay, and then I need to provide the configuration. So I'll come over here, this is the MySQL, the type of the my connection we are using, database connection. This is the host name, then comes the port, so just check which port you on, and then you can put that there, and if not, just leave it like that. And then this is the database name, so my database name will be my underscore DB, and then my username is root and password is blank, so I'm just keeping that. You can change the configuration to yours, whichever you have, you can set it here. So once that is set, again, we have put the configuration, we have created the migration file, we have created the model, but this alone is not going to create the table over here. So if you check, this is blank, there's nothing over there. The job of the migration file and the model is just to provide environments for the table. Okay, if we want to create the table, then we need to run another command, and that command is called php. Okay, let me just clear this off first. So it's php artisan migrate, and if you hit enter, what this is going to do is this is going to take the all of the information from here, and it's going to create the table. Once the table is created, post.php will allow us to use certain methods from the Eloquent methods, Eloquent class of methods, and you will be able to perform action with the database. So let's hit enter. Okay, I think spelling mistake, artisan, and sure enough you can see that the table is created. If you notice, it is not only created the post table, but it is also created the user table and the password reset table. Why? Because it's going to look for all of the tables inside of this migration directory, and it's going to look for which are the ones which are not already created. If this was not the first time we were doing a migration running this command, then probably it will not create the tables that are already created. It will only probably create just this one, which we haven't. Since it's the first time, it's creating all of these tables because these weren't created before. So let's go ahead and refresh it. And sure enough, you can see you have users, you have posts, you have title, description, and this is what we had added over here as a string. These were the columns, and then you have password reset, and this is also the migration is created by default by Laravel. Great, perfect. Now the next thing is, what if I want to create all of these three files together. I want to create a model file, I want to create a controller file with the resource functionality, with the resource methods, and I want to create a migration file together. In order for us to do that, all I have to do is pass this flag -mc and then the resource flag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete my model, which is post.php. I'm going to delete the migration file, which is create post table, and I'm also going to delete the controller. Okay, I don't think I have controller. No, I don't. Okay, great. And obviously I need to go ahead and delete these tables, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete them. Don't need them. Okay, now obviously this doesn't know that there have been changes in your Laravel, so in order for us to fix that, the first thing we need to do is basically run this command, which is composer dump autoload. It's going to delete all the files from there. Okay, and then we just need to reset PHP artisan migrate reset this command. Remember that this command will delete everything from the database, so just be careful of what you need in your project. Okay, table not found, that's fine. And then we just need to do a migrate refresh. So what this is going to do is basically refresh the migration table. It's going to delete everything from the table if it was already, and create a new migration. So you can see that all of this is created again. So you have your users table and your passwords table all being created over here. Okay, great. Now we're back. So now users table is already there. So next time we run the PHP artisan migrate, obviously this is not going to create the user table and password table again because they're already there. Next thing we need to do basically is use this command, PHP artisan make model, in order for us to create all of these three things together, three files together. So let's try that. So I'm going to do PHP artisan make model. I'm going to name it as post. Remember, this will relate to posts table in the database. Post, and then I'm going to pass m. This will create the migration file for post, which will be create underscore posts underscore table. C is going to create a controller, which will be posts controller.php. So I think it should be plural. And then the resource flag is going to provide us with all the CRUD functionality methods, which is index, update, create, destroy, and functions like those. So if I now hit enter, I will have all those three files created: model, controller, and the migration files. You can see model created successfully, created migration file, created controller. If you go back, you can see that inside of the HTTP, inside of the controller, I have the post controller. It is not plural, it's not taken as plural, but that's okay because it's done automatically. And you have all the resources, functions, CRUD functions, which is index, create, store, all of that. Okay, and if you come back, you can see this is the model that's created as post.php. And then you also have the migration file, which is create post table. Great. Let's go ahead and define some of the fields. Let's just define one of them because we did one last time, so that's fine. So let's just say title, save it, and remember, this is just going to set up the environment for us. It's not going to actually create the table for us in the database. In order for us to create the table, we have to run PHP artisan migrate. Let's hit enter. You can see that now this time it is not actually recreating the users table and password reset table because they're already there in the database. It is only going to create the one which is not there, the one which is new, which is create post table, and that's what has happened over here. It's only created the create post table. So now if you go back and check, if you refresh it, sure enough, you can now see that we've got post and we've got title as the column that we had put over here. Okay, and so it's going to create the schema, which is the post, and schema is basically the structure of the database. Okay, and then blueprint table and all of that stuff going on there. Great. I think that's about it for models. They are representing the data structure. There are ways to create all the three files, controller and your um, model and the migration file together using the -mc and -resource. You can also skip the resource in case if you don't need all of those CRUD functionality methods like index, edit, all of those functions. You can just pass this one also. Okay. And so there are different things that it's available over here. There's just an overview for this. If nothing of this or some of this doesn't make sense to you guys, don't worry about it. It's just an overview. I promise you in the next videos when you're going to create a CRUD functionality with forms, etc., all of these things will be very clear in your head. This is just an overview, so just you can just relax. So if you did like the video, please do subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. We will discuss more about the databases. Take care, guys. Bye bye.